Hey everyone, it is Brandy J, and we are back with a brand new episode of the No Permissions Needed podcast. And I am beyond excited for our guest tonight. Normally you guys know me. I'm like, the Jay-Z of this. I always go off the dome, but she has so many accolades. We gotta read about our guest. She is a women's tackle football player, has been playing since the age of 9, two-time NAIA flag football championship at Ottawa University. She has in 2024 and 2025 DB Holidays Showcase MVP twice back to back. 2025 WFA Defensive Player of the Year, 2022 WFA D2 National Championships that she won with the Mile High Blaze, and MVP in 2023. So we're going to let her in and get ready. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I was
Perfect.
going over your accolades and I have like a whole list. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, I don't want to forget anything. But I am so excited to have you and for you to be on the No Permissions Needed podcast. I had a pleasure working with you at the MVP shoot last year with the WFA. And I always just saw you were an amazing person. Your light is shining, and I love how you lead your football through God. So we have some things to talk about. Why did you leave the WFA for the WNFC?
so honestly, it took a lot of faith, and I'll go back to talking to my roots. I did a lot of praying, and I felt like I was being called to move for bigger change in my life, and I didn't know exactly where that was going to take me, but just kind of listening to that calling, I put myself out there, and being a free agent, went through an extensive amount of interviews, narrowing down a list to about 10 teams, and then narrowing it back down to about 2 teams. And I was fortunate enough to be able to take trips out to visit teams. I visited with the DC Divas, and then I had to take a visit over to the Golden State Storm. The WFA or the WNFC was also a huge factor, of course, because I was choosing between the DC Divas and WFA, and then the Golden State Storm and the WNFC. When I had made the visit out to Golden State out here in the Bay, it just something clicked. Like, it felt like home. There was so many pros between the two. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to choose between these two teams. Like, there's just so many positives, and there's so many what ifs. Like, there's so many pros and cons to, of course, the moving from the WFA to the WNFC, I feel like I'm just going to have different levels of challenges and opportunities over in this league, that I didn't have in the WFA. And, playing in the Dream Big Holiday Showcase, I had got to like get an experience, get a small taste of what it would be like to, with the different players that are in the WNFC and the different coaches that are in that league. And I just love the energy that I felt, the competition that I felt, the high standard that the league and the individual teams had held themselves to fight to become, having that title of being a professional women's league.
Yeah.
So, that really drew me and kind of hooked me into fully committed out to the WNFC and out to the Golden State Storm.
Well, I'm so proud of you. I know sometimes making that jump from different leagues who have a history, which we all know
Yeah.
they have a not great history of working together. I'm very honest. Girl, I'm 46. I ain't got time. I'm on a
Yeah,
two-year mama.
right,
So
right.
I'm just
Stick
gonna say
to
what it
it.
is. I commend you because a lot of people can't do that in their everyday life when it has to do with work or just life. Making
Right.
that decision, knowing that you have to listen to your faith and your intuition.
Mhm.
And it's more than just, and I mean, everyone wants to come to Cali. I mean, it is,
Right.
I'm born and raised in Cali. I'm not leaving. And I only way I will leave if I'm moving to London. Like that's
Right. Moving out the country.
the country. But I just feel like you making that, when I saw that, I just my respect for you just went up even more because
Thank
to be so young and having to make that hard decision where I know you probably had people from both leagues in your
you.
ear trying to convince you, but you had to be at peace and at still. And I'm sure God told you to be still and
Yes. Yes.
and work through that. So how was that process of having that tug of war within yourself and leaning on to God and knowing that this is where he told you to be?
It was a hard move, I will say that. I was all the way excited up until the point until the day that I left to drive to California from Colorado. Then I started feeling anxious and nervous, and, I didn't have a job lined up when I was moving out here, and I am fortunate enough to have my family out here to have eased the transition of moving,
Mhm.
but it's still a lot different because, I'm moving away from home to this new
Yeah.
home that I
Yeah.
have to make my new home, and moving away from where I grew up and, my parents and my dogs and everything that I'm familiar with. And of course, like, I would visit out here in California, but it was always just a small vacation. But now, I'm not on vacation no more. Like, this is life. And so I think that started hitting me, packing up all everything, seeing my childhood room empty, completely empty,
Mm.
bare walled, and having to say, it's a long see you later, but to everyone out in Colorado. So it's a hard transition. It's still, I feel like I'm not still fully transitioned. The
Mhm.
California is a lot more city, more fast
Yeah.
paced. So there's definitely a cultural difference that I've had to adjust to being out here as well. Um, yeah, so still I feel like I still am transitioning. I will say the Golden State Storm staff and all my new teammates have also helped really ease that transition just because we're kind of all on the same plate. This is a
Yeah.
brand new team.
Yes.
I'm glad that I do have, like, veteran players, surrounding me, so that helps that, it's not everyone's just a rookie, so we're all just kinda having the same struggle, we're all just struggling together, so it's nice to, have that, and it's also nice to be on a clean slate, although, of course, it comes with its struggles because it's a clean slate,
Mhm.
but there's also just so much benefits to that where, we're building the foundation, we are the foundation here. Me moving out here is like, okay, well, I'm turning 21, I'm stepping into adulthood, and it's this whole new life change that has come upon me that I feel like I'm just changing as a person, changing and
Yeah.
growing and stepping into this whole new Leilani out here in Golden State, not just as a football player, but, as me.
And that's something I just feel like being 21 and leaving home, that took a lot of courage. And
Yes.
it's not for the weak. And
No.
I mean, I'm born and raised in San Diego. I've been here my whole life. And my mom just left and moved to Texas in 2024. So for me, like, this is the first time in my adulthood, I don't have my mom 10 minutes away and I
Yes.
don't have any family. So I understand how it's like, you're like, what? You kind of feel like an orphan.
Right, right.
Like,
Yes. Like, I know she's a phone call away, but she's not, like, right upstairs.
I know. It's not like I can go to my mom's house 7 minutes away and be like, "Mommy, I just want a hug," and I'm a grown woman,
Mhm.
but they understand that, like, that whole not and I don't want you to say you guys are struggling, you guys are learning and
No, for sure. Yeah.
embracing what the new team is going to be about, and
Mhm.
so how has it been when it comes to just a new team? You guys are making your debut this year. Like, is the pressure on, with you coming in being MVPs and winning championships in the other league, like, is the pressure on for your team to be this elite team, or do you feel like there's grace for the first year?
No, I think there's definitely a lot of pressure for sure. Knowing that, a lot of the teams that come out of Cali in general, WFA or WNFC, are supposed to be known, as these powerhouse teams. That's just kind of how it comes off. Like, certain states,
Yeah.
just you expect them to have some, uh, like, a powerhouse
I
players
mean,
on the team.
this is a
And
home of NWA, Tupac,
so,
E40, Too Short.
yeah,
I mean,
that's what I'm
we
saying.
are just
Like,
naturally
you gotta show up. Like,
you gotta you gotta show up when you from Cali. Like,
exactly. We're repping Cali. Like, so definitely the pressure from that, just, from it being Cali to it being the WNFC, there's only a couple teams in the league. So of course you don't want to
yeah.
be the last team out of 16.
Yeah.
But, WFA, you're drowning in, 60
Yeah.
plus teams, you could get lost in the middle a little bit, but the WNFC is just a lot more condensed that you really do have eyes on each 16 teams. And, the pressure of just repping the Bay Area and, going around and doing a lot of the sponsorships and fundraising and people getting excited like, yo, we got a women's football team in the Bay Area and they've never seen us play, but they're already so hyped to see us play. So putting the pressure on to perform
Mhm.
for all the Cali natives that are here right now, and the pressure to perform for all of us that had to move out of state, who had to that are coming internationally, the pressure to
Yeah.
perform there that it's like, I packed up my whole life for this. So I want to show something for that. And of course, I'm one that believes like it's more about the journey than the outcome. But I know that, if our outcome ended up being a losing season, then that's going to be a lot more bitter than sweet.
I mean,
And
there's you tell new teams in the NFL have that same,
yeah.
when I'm sure when the Jacksonville Jaguars came, everyone was like, okay, it's gonna take y'all a minute,
Hmm.
and just other new teams coming in. So how do you feel about, speaking of like the NFL,
Yeah.
how do you feel about the NFL backing flag before backing tackle football?
I am grateful that they are backing flag in general, that, women's sports that had been originally male dominated or still kind of are male dominated, that
Hmm.
were at least we're being recognized. But there's also a greater part of me that is upset about it because we are playing, we're playing tackle football. Like
Yeah.
like it's the same thing. And it's just very unfortunate that we haven't had that kind of recognition yet, and that we have been around a lot longer than the flag football
Hmm.
realm has been for women's football. And I think, it just comes with a lot of the stereotypes of, women playing in the male dominated sport. And so
Yeah.
tackle seems like a little more aggressive and angled toward males, I would say, rather as the flag is, a little more finesse, and you're not at you get some contact, but you're definitely not getting as much contact as you are in tackle. And
Exactly.
so
You're not getting knocked on your ass.
yeah, right. So, I mean, I would say I'm a little as a tackle player, I am a little more disappointed. As someone who supports women's sports, obviously I'm ecstatic over it. So it's a little bit of tug of war between that one,
Do
for
you
sure.
feel like tackle football will ever get on the same path or wavelength as the NFL? I feel like, and I've said this before in
Uh,
interviews, the leagues have to come together in order, I feel like, for that to happen. And I don't foresee that happening. So do you feel like women's tackle football will ever be as big as the NFL? Like in NFL, runs the country.
mhm.
Sometimes you feel like, Super Bowl Sunday, no one's doing anything. It's like a national holiday. But going back to the question, do you think, women's tackle football will ever be on the same wavelength as, popularity and everything as the NFL?
I think it's definitely making progress from where I had initially when I first started playing 6 years ago.
Hmm.
There's definitely been, like, a substantial amount of progress, and, we don't get as much recognition, but I know there's a lot more people who are starting, I feel like, to respect women's tackle football, that had before in the past. When I first started playing 6 years ago, we would still
Hmm.
get more, like, kind of a I don't even know, like, like, people will try to, like, embarrass us or, like, talk us down, but now I feel like I get
Yeah.
more positive outlook where it's like, "Yo, like, we wanna actually come support this and support you." And I just think we are on a positive trajectory, but it's definitely gonna take a lot longer
Yeah.
with the way that stereotypes still are today, and how flag is kind of overshining
Hmm.
women's football right now. That's just kind of the headliner that everyone's looking at right now, and don't realize like there is a tackle football league. And I think just the more that we are able to, as women's football players, just no matter the league, being able to push out that, you know, that our leagues exist and to come
Yeah.
support us too.
Exactly.
And because I feel like there is just so many people who still don't know that women's tackle football exists, and it's very crazy to me. But I think if both leagues are just putting in a great amount of effort to push that, we exist, I think we'll be able to move a lot faster.
Hmm.
I think there definitely will come a point when, discussing league merges or stuff like that is going to have to come, because, I can foresee it being a situation like the NFL versus the CFL, where
Yeah.
both are very high levels, but obviously, the NFL level is where you're getting paid a lot more, you have larger crowds. Not to discredit the CFL, who still does get, pretty large amount of crowds, or even the Arena League,
Yeah.
for the
The
men's
IFL.
teams, like,
Hmm.
they still get a lot of crowds and recognition and everything. So I think it'll definitely just be come to a point where it either merges or one just kinda is above the other one a little bit. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it's going to be more years for tackle football to women's tackle football to reach that level, which I don't
Yes.
understand because some of the games are better than the NFL games. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
to be honest with you. How so being a part, being a female women's athlete, it's always the fact either that women pay to play or they don't get paid, or the pay is not how the level where the men. So how do you feel how do you feel about being a professional tackle football player but having to pay to play?
It's hard. It's hard, it's frustrating, and in some ways it makes me feel like the term professional you would think comes with you see all the other professional athletes getting paid and everything, but
Yeah.
it's like it's hard to especially when people ask, like, "Oh, you're professional, how much do you get paid?" And it's like, "Well, we don't actually get paid, but we are professional." Like,
Yeah.
and in a way, I feel like I like it because it humbles us right now as
Mhm.
both leagues, and that this is where we're growing from is as hard as it is, it's also just very humbling to see how much work we really have to put in to build the
Yeah.
league and how much we're really fighting. It makes me respect us more than the players that are getting paid millions because you have women who are working, 2, 3 jobs, have kids, and are
Exactly.
still showing up to practices, still showing up to games and fundraisers and all the extra stuff to be a part of the team. You're trying to be full time in 3 different places and,
Mhm.
it just amazes me about some of the women on my team now and that I've played with before, played against that I know about. And it just gives me more respect for us as professional football players. And I hope that our league does come to a point where we can start paying our players or just having more compensation and it not being as costly out of our own pockets or having to fundraise to be able to afford to play in a game
Yeah.
because I feel like that would ease a lot of stress and that would give us more freedom to be able to just solely focus on being players rather
Yeah.
than have to afford to be a player.
And that's a lot to just, as a woman, we juggle so much. And
Mhm.
we have to, like you said, be full time in so many places and then go home and still be full time. And that
Yes.
pressure can really get to you. And the men don't have that. They can just be the player and then they go home, they have their partner taking care of the house and running things. So it's like as women, we always carry so much, we always do so much, but then that goes on to leaning on faith. And one thing I love
Mhm.
about you, you are not afraid as a young person, which is rare, to talk about your faith and to talk about how the importance of believing in God and having him on your side. Have you how does that make you feel, like being so young, being fearless and saying this is who I am and putting him first in everything?
It's like, I have to, like, it's my why I'm
Yeah.
here right now, like, he put me in this position, and I have no choice but to give him the glory because he's the one that placed me here, and how I continue to keep having opportunities, how I'm continuing to stay blessed in playing football because, I was put here f for the purpose that he put me here,
Mhm.
and with any injuries or setbacks or, having to move states, I'm able to do that because of football. I moved out
Yeah.
to California because of football. I got a scholarship because of football. I was able to go to college and, be a first generation, get my bachelor's degree because of football. And, you know, at the center of it all, it's God and it's
Mhm.
what he has in store for me. And I know that as long as I keep following, whatever path he has for me and as much as my faith can be the size of a mustard seed sometimes because I can get stubborn because I want to see what's going on? Like what are we like why like am I walking down the wrong
Exactly.
path? Like I cannot see right now. Like
Yeah.
and I have to have faith because every time he's delivered me through and anytime I get doubtful, I just remember how far he's brought me to today um, through high school, through being able to play in the WFA at such a young age. I started
Mhm.
at 16, and that's the youngest in both leagues to ever play professionally.
Yeah.
And preparing me up to that point from 9 years old to 16 to be able to go out in the WFA and make such a big impact at such a young age. Um, he prepared me for this, and I can't not help but to give him glory for that.
And he's an awesome God, and sometimes I'm like, "God,
Yeah.
you really gotta take me through this?" Like,
Right,
know,
right.
I was praying this when I was like, "Really? This is what we doing? Like, I just can't get a
You gotta
break."
go this way? You sure? You sure this is
Like
the path?
And and I told my son this, I said, "He puts you in situations to test you
Mhm.
and to see what you're going to do." And my mom, heavy believer, we were in church every Sunday. Dad was a deacon. It was just like, I'd be like, okay, mom, I'm tired. Like, can we have a Sunday to ourselves? But the faith was so strong even now. Even to my mom was like, he puts a lot on you because you can take it. And I feel
Yeah,
like God shows you your purpose. Like he showed you yours at a very young age.
he did.
You have no choice but to just do it. And if you don't, something feels off.
Yes.
And, for me as media, if I'm not doing it feels off. And I know he told me my purpose when I was, 5 years old playing with my dad's video camera, acting like I had my own
Yeah.
talk show at 5. So for me, this is back in the 80s, oh my God. He didn't have all this fancy equipment. Um, but I understand having that purpose and for you to be so young, it's a beautiful thing to see. And that's why I feel like I've always gravitated towards you with that because it's it makes me proud to see the younger generation as you in this direction. And so do you like how do you feel about like going out to like getting other young girls a part of the mission as far as how you approach life and how you approach football? Is there rejection or like how they accepted you, like other young girls and your teammates?
Playing No, like, playing professionally, when I started at 16, the team was very accepting of me. I was the one
Okay.
that had a bit of a struggle because of how high my football IQ was. I was considered a captain, considered a leader.
Mm,
Everyone's coming up and asking me questions of how they were supposed to play a certain position or how to do a certain technique and going through the coverages, and it was a bit hard it was a bit hard for me to balance between, having that high football IQ and having to help coach and then not feeling like I had a lot of authority because I was
mhm.
so much younger than everyone. Like, everyone was, like,
Yeah.
my mom or, like, older. Like, literally, like, my mom and my aunties, like, that's what my whole was when I was 16. Everyone was my auntie. I was like, I feel like I don't wanna yell at my auntie, but she's not, like, running this route
Sometimes you
right, right?
got to. I
Like,
mean, I'm a yelled at mine. Okay, you got to.
so I definitely had to build my confidence. I was also just not a big talker.
Hmm.
I was a lot more quiet on the field, off the field, very, very shy. But someone would have to talk to me first or ask me a question to get anything out of me. Like, I would not speak first, even though like I was like, you're not doing that right. But just just sit back here because like I was just not very outspoken at all. So I mean, it's definitely helped build my confidence having just
Hmm.
thrown me in there and finding that balance between um the respectfulness and like the authority of everyone. I was trying
Yeah.
to be respectful, but also, get on your head a little bit for
Exactly.
not
Believe
doing the
me,
play right.
it doesn't change as you get older. Being 46, talking to my mom, I was like on today. I was like, "Kim, mom, I'm trying to be respectful, but you testing my patience,
I
right?"
got it. Yeah, right.
So, besides being a football player, you have your
Mhm.
foundation that's in the works.
Yeah.
So, what is that foundation about?
Yeah, so it's the Leilani Caamal Foundation. It's a foundation that I'm building. I recently ran my first football camp this last July
Hmm.
in Colorado. It was a very low costly count. I was trying to make it as low as possible to also get as much engagement as I could. I brought out a lot of experienced coaches from high school, just everyone that I've made connections with growing up throughout football that I
Hmm.
was able to reach out to and bring out to my camp to give these kids like the best experience without having to come out of pocket like
Yeah,
hundreds of dollars for
exactly. Because
like an
these,
NFL players camp, but still give them like a great experience. And so running that camp also, I had an advisor at the time, and he was helping me how to like, build the camp, build my image, especially wanting to become a free agent, like helping to build a branding for
yeah,
myself.
your brand.
And he had
Hmm.
he had gave me the idea of making a foundation to help with, my sponsoring my camps, also to help me as a player, um, getting more sponsorships as a player, so I'm not coming out of pocket as much.
Yeah.
And then also just bringing more awareness and attention to women's football, tackle football in general. And my biggest thing playing and for my foundation is to be the person that I needed when I was growing up because
Mm,
I had no role model that fit me growing up. You know, I looked up to, big hitters in the NFL, Ray
yeah.
Lewis, Troy Polamalu, Patrick Willis, all of them, but it was like, well, they're men and I'm like the only girl on my team and I just but putting me then that's why I give God the glory because him putting me through that and having to, endure that struggle of being the only girl on my team and then, manage my own emotions and how my thought
Mhm.
process is so much different from the guys and the male coaches that I had and the way that I learn and the way that, my technique might be a little different, but it's how it works for me. And,
Yeah.
going to the WFA, I realized like having had all those years of teaching myself in a way of how I play as a female football player helped me to translate that once I got into the WFA and realizing like, oh, you guys are all like me. Like we all learn the same. We're all like we have to practice and like be in a routine and know
Exactly.
the why of everything. Like you can't just tell me, step like this because I said so. But it's like, but
Because we're gonna be like, "Well,
why do
why?
I need to step why do I need to step like that though?
What do I gotta do? Why do I gotta do it like that? Like, why
Because
can't
it's
I do it
like
like this?"
exactly, because like this if I step like this, it looks easier. It's like, no, step like this. So just realizing like small tweaks like that and learning that in myself, thinking that, I was just different. And I mean, I was, but it was because I was a female and being able to translate that. And so, as I've gotten older and realizing, building a brand, I I have come across a lot of younger girls who started looking up to me and
Yeah.
that was very heartwarming and also made me realize like I am becoming who I needed when I was younger. And so just continuing to build on top of that, I want to give girls the opportunities for, bigger camps like the I Got Your Back camp that the WNFC had held this past Super
Mhm.
Bowl weekend. That camp was amazing that they had partnered with Dove. Compared to any of the camps that I've gone to, even NFL player camps, that was probably the best well ran and was like the experience that
Yeah.
they gave the girls was amazing
Wow.
and, like, they were so energetic, so happy the entire time, like, we were a lot was invested into them, and, and that's how it should be.
Exactly.
And so seeing that, that's the plan that I'm trying to have with the foundation, going on different motivational speaking and showing them that you're not alone. You have me to look to and you have a whole entire league to look
Mhm.
to and a whole future to look forward to and to, build to. It gives motivation and inspiration and, even if you don't end up becoming a professional women's tackle football player, there's still a lot more that you can see from the women that play football even if
Exactly.
you end up going like the basketball or softball or soccer route, like you still have a role model right now in some sport because I still look up to like other women that are in other sports. I might not play that sport, Serena Williams, and
Yeah.
I cannot play tennis for the life of me. But there's just there's inspirational strong women everywhere, and I think it's important to also have that in all kinds of sports, especially tackle football. So just helping to build that brand, build that awareness, and build opportunities for the girls in this environment. And then also the other side of that is doing like other clinics, such as like mental health
Mhm.
clinics, eventually
Yes.
building up to like having one-on-one mentorships. And I just have a lot of ideas of where I want the foundation to go. And I'm excited for once I get it fully off the ground. Um, yeah.
I'm excited for it. I'm inspired. Like, I could be like this all day just listening to you talk about it because it's something that it's needed, and not just from a football clinic side, but from
Mhm.
mentoring and helping young girls. Because
Yes.
like you said, you didn't have anyone that was doing what you were doing that you could look up to. You have to look up to the NFL players and things like that. And I feel and I know how that feels. Like being a young girl, you're like, okay, I like doing this, I like doing that, but it's only a men's world, or
Mhm.
not having seen that. Um, so you're gonna get an email from me after this about how I can work in your foundation because I'm
Oh, for
inspired.
sure.
Would love to help and do things because it's something that's so needed, especially for the mental health aspect. Because some of
Yes.
us are
Yes.
there's so I mean, you see an NFL player, another just, took his life and it's it's so much going on in the world that I feel like I tell people, I said, it's too much and you're trying to find your happiness. So, what are some things you do, speaking of mental health, to keep grounded and to keep your mental health? I don't like to use the word like in check, but keep it where it needs to be so you're not going like down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, of course, first off, I obviously find my peace in God.
Yeah.
Praying is a huge thing for me. I like to journal a lot, just being able to get everything out of my head onto paper and then um, you know, throw it away or just have it, sitting in the notebook.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to get everything out of my head, because as women, we tend to overthink a lot,
Yes.
and we can definitely go on a downward spiral very fast.
Yes.
And so I like to I think of it like I'm cleaning up internally and then I like to work my way outwards. So, cleaning my room and, picking stuff up off the floor
Yeah.
because,
Having that
be
clear
it's
space.
very it's we have a very busy lifestyle as well. So, the cleaning gets caught up to you and, living in a cluttered mess can also have you living in a cluttered mind as
Yeah.
well, is what I was taught. Like my mom taught me that growing up, and just doing little things here and there, not having putting big tasks on myself, knowing when to rest, whether that and varies from time to time for me. Sometimes that's just going outside and laying in the grass and just smelling
Mm-hmm.
the grass and looking at the sky. And journaling, sometimes I like to just watch a movie, or I like to cook, or sometimes I'll draw, just
Yeah.
random sketches, or reading if I feel like I'm not able to fully get everything out, or I have I do feel like I want to think, just finding a book that kind of correlates to what I'm thinking about and being able to focus my attention, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, it
And
makes I have books. I have like so many books in my house
yes.
because me and my son, he's 15, but he's been reading past the college level since he was 5. So we keep books around the
Okay.
house
Yeah.
because the reader, I'm a reader. Like I have like within in a hand reach, I probably have like 6 books
Mhm.
around me. But it does relax and calm your mind and it helps with your mental health. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
I
I mean,
I love
oh,
that.
yeah, and those are very, I'm a little more introverted, so those are definitely things that if I'm, like, super high stress, those are my first go-tos. And then, of course, having just being around family and just those close to me that help to relieve stress, just have a laugh, or if we're just sitting around each other and eating
Mhm.
dinner together, just reminding me that, I'm surrounded by love, I'm surrounded by a support system, and, I don't have to carry it all. So
This
that
has been a great interview. You are really a beautiful soul. You really have a light. And I just want to make sure, don't ever dim your light. Don't let no one dim your light. Shine bright because you are on a
Yes.
God path. And I can feel the energy just through the screen. Like it's crazy. And it's an amazing feeling. So my last question before we wrap things up is what would you tell a young girl who wants to play tackle football and she's looking up to you and she's like 6, 7 years old? What would you tell her?
Mhm. Do it. You are the future. It is you. And you're the why if anyone tells you that you can't, go ahead and turn around and do it in front of them. Like, it's you. And a a big thing that I've always told myself is, why not you? And the only person that can really answer that is myself. And how,
Yep,
I decide to answer that is the answer. And nobody else can answer that why not me except me. And the
exactly.
same goes for all these younger generations. Nobody can answer that but them. And if they want it, they have a whole community of women who are ready to support them and to help them grow wherever they need to, and to motivate them. So you're not alone in this. And, yeah,
That's beautiful. My daughter played tackle football when she was younger, and she was like, I gave her 3 choices: soccer, cheerleading, and football. And she's like, I want to tackle someone. I said, you are your father's child.
yes. Good
You are
answer.
your
Good
father's
answer.
child. So she played up until like, I think she was from like 5 to 9 or 10, and then
Love that.
yeah. So, but I just want to say I had a great time with you on the podcast. Thank you so much for always
Me too.
supporting
Thank
me
you.
and what I have going on. I'm going to support. I'm going to see when you guys come to San Diego to play the Rebellion and see if I can make it out to
Yes.
that game and see you. I'm really all about supporting women in sports. I don't care what league you guys play in. It's about getting more, shining more light on you guys and bringing your guys' platform to the forefront, and that's really what's important to me. So let everyone know where they can follow you out on social media. And when is your first home game? So we got, come on, we got to promote it. Let's go.
No, for real. Okay, so I'm on Instagram. You can follow me at lvni.001. And our first home game, March 28th in Oakland, California, Laney College,
Woo,
7
you
p.m.
guys,
kickoff.
Oakland.
7 p.m. kickoff. Yep. We out there. If you want a discount code on tickets, use Storm43. You get your own special code from me. Get a discount, come to our home games. We have 3 home games this season, so
Good. Well,
it's gonna
I'm
be
so
great.
yes, go you guys go out and support. I really you being on the podcast and supporting, and I'm just so I can't wait for you to see what you do in life. I really am excited for you, and I'm not playing. You're going to get an email because I want to see how I can work with you on your foundation and grow it to what it needs to be because I believe in it so much just by talking with you. So thank you so
Thank
much for
you ve
tuning in, you
Thank you for
guys. Make
having
sure
me.
you're welcome. You guys make sure you follow her. She's amazing. She is a beast on that field because I've seen her play a couple times and her energy is amazing. So if you ain't afraid, go to Oakland and watch, watch the Storm play, but support them no matter where you guys are at. This is about supporting women in sports and just really elevating women's tackle football. So thank you guys for watching and tuning in, and we will see you guys in the next episode.